So this is an eRIS application. This is a browser I'm using, Microsoft Chrome, and this is we call this the Anytown Water Services. This is just a typical implementation of how people might use an eRIS application. But one thing about eRIS that makes this a little bit different is that everything that you see on this screen can be configured specifically for your organization. So I have an eRIS that looks like this, but I can also have an eRIS that looks like this. A much broader and bigger menuing system, one that even hides the header and footer or header information. But I'm going to go back to our typical partner site and show you how typical people use eRIS. So this is what most of our clients would see or at least look at. In this case, I've got an electronic logbook on my landing page, but that could easily be anything. These menus, like I said, could be modified and adjusted to match how your users use eRIS. I also have some manual data entry forms here. So here's an example of an afternoon rounds form. Here's a form where people can do and manually enter data. I've got another page where people can look at reports and maybe even build a report. A couple of dashboards, not a lot of data there. And then another page where people can look at trends. Got a couple of lines on the trend. So let me go back to the logbook and show you how to use the logbook. So real simple tool to use. We have this concept of labels. It automatically knows what date and time it is. So I'm going to make a new logbook entry. Labels are just added data or metadata that helps me organize my log entry. So I'm going to make a sample entry about blowers, and I'm just going to pretend that it happened after hour. So I'm going to add an after hour blowers call. So, last night there was an issue with blower number 1, all maintenance this morning. And I add it to the log, and it drops directly into the log. Now you notice that it's not the top one in the log. Why? Well, because this top entry is actually pinned. So we have this concept of pinning entries to the logbook. So this entry will stay here until it's either unpinned or until it expires. You'll also notice that there's a lot of information. Both the labels that I added to this entry are now available. What's really nice about eRIS is if I want to look at just things that happen to contain blowers, well, I simply click the label and the log filters to blowers. So anything that has that blowers label, I can get rid of that. The application will now expand. So now I'm looking at all of the log entries as well. I can do the same thing with aeration as well. Click on the aeration label, and now I'm filtered down to everything at aeration. So really simple, easy way to find information using labels, but I can also look for anything by a simple keyword search as well. So if I want to look at any label or any entry that has the word offline in it, well, there we go. I'm filtered down to anything that has the word offline. So this is how the people in McDonald were looking for that address, simply looking by the entry. And these entries are not just static. We can add attachments, so you can add those pictures that we were talking about. We can pin this to the top, or we can link entries together. So you can create links, whether entries are related or blocked or duplicated or relates to a bunch of different reasons are available here, but you can link entries together. You can see also that I can have access to multiple logbooks. So we've got a training logbook here as well, so people can practice and play around with the logbook. and then they have their access to their main logbook. The tabs only show to people who have access to specific logbooks. So if I didn't have access to the training logbook, I wouldn't see the tab for training. I showed you the manual data entry form for the rounds. To put time or data in is as simple as me typing in information. So if this pump ran for 12.5 hours, I used 302 volts and is in good condition, I can simply add that information. I don't have to fill out the complete form. I can hit save, and now that information is stored within a database. And I can look at the log and see what, how, and why that information was added. So I can see the values were added by who and what the process was. They were added. If I made a mistake and I need to make a change, that shouldn't have been 302, it should have been 203. I make the change. There's a complete audit log now. So when I go back to the audit log, I can see what the value is now and how and why it was updated. To run a report is real simple within eRIS. All I need to know is the report name. So I'm going to run this monthly well report, and then I just need to know when I want to run this for. I'm going to go look at a report from last year. So let's go back to August of 2018. I simply grab the start date because it already knows what period I'm running. And there is my monthly report for August of 2018 for this well report. Shows all the chlorine and the ammonia and how much water was delivered out of this well. To build a report is simple as well. So I'm going to go to our report builder tool, give the report a name. I'm going to tell it what type of template to use. I'm going to create a letter portlet. I can select layout or just grab a block. I'm just going to put a simple table of data on this report, just because I don't want to take up too much of your time. We're going to edit this table. I'm going to get some data points from a query that I've already created. So I'm going to add some chlorine tags. All of the information about these chlorine tags is stored within here, and I can make changes if I want, but I believe the defaults. So I'm looking at hourly data, the average of 1 hour. To make it a little bit easier for y'all to see, I'm going to just increase the size, the table font size, and I'm going to give the header just a different color just to make it look interesting. Going to add some summarization on the bottom of each column. So the min, max, and the average. I'm going to save that. And now I've got a table of data on this report. Let me go ahead and save it. As this is saving, I get a message that says my webinar demo report is saved. So let's go run that report. I know this is hourly averages, so I'm going to go and grab this report. Webinar demo report. I'm only going to run this for a couple of days. And let's come back into the present. I'll go back and grab this from August 1st to August 3rd or August 2nd. Same way to run the report. And now I've got my table of data. So this is the chlorine values over the 2 days. Got a couple of pages, and then there's my summarizations at the bottom. So real simple, easy to use reporting tool. Once I've got a report here, I can easily export it to a lot of different formats. PDF is the one most people use. And now I have a very nice paginated report that I can, send to a printer. I can download an email. I can also have eRIS do this whole process automatically. I don't have to run a report, but I can have it scheduled and emailed directly to people. last thing I want to show you is the trend tool. So this is a way to quickly and easily look for information. So, you know, I've grabbed a couple of tags right here. This data is looking at yesterday's data. Let me go back and look at the 11th. So now I'm looking at August 11th data, and I'm looking at a single day. I'm going to go and change this to a couple of days. You'll notice that I'm not clicking anything. It automatically refreshes. I'm looking at 10-minute intervals. This data I know is stored at 1-minute intervals, but because I'm looking at 2 days, it adjusts the interval to look at every 10 minutes. If I go and even look at 1 week of data, now it'll adjust my interval to make sense. So now it's looking at every 30-minute samples, just because I'm looking at a larger section of data. So real nice, kind of cool, but a nice unique feature of eRIS is if I want to see this exact same data, but for the previous month, well, it adds 2 more lines. It's kind of hard to see, but I will show you that now I'm looking at the current week that I had, August 11th through the 17th versus July 11th through the 17th, the previous month. And if that's even harder to see, I can make the charts a little bigger. And now I can see a little bit more detail simply, quickly, and easily. And I've got all kinds of control over how these look. If I don't like that color, I can simply make that color a dark gray if I want, and it'll redraw the line for me in a dark gray. So a real simple, easy to use tool, helps you find and look at information quickly and rapidly.